Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Luca Beth Lounge, the cozy space for everybody who loves Lucas and Elizabeth from One Calls the Heart. Today we have me, Jillian.
Me, Blanca. Hello.
Hi, guys. It's Div.
Hi, everyone. It's Gina.
Today, our episode is entitled Lucas Bouchard at Your Service. And we're going to go from the first time that we see Lucas through the end of season 6. And we're going to kind of debunk everybody's, some people's opinions about how Lucas is maybe a bad guy, mysterious guy, a shady guy. And we're going to go and prove that wrong. Okay? Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. So we're going to go from, like I said, the first time that we see Lucas in the cafe when Florence and Molly and Bill are talking badly about the new saloon owner. They don't know who it is. Of course, Lucas is sitting right there, and he introduces himself, but he doesn't give very many details. He just says he's kind of a tumbleweed, a bit of a tumbleweed, and Bill is less than pleased with that because he wants to know more about this Lucas Bouchard character. So, but I was curious. I'm gonna start with you, Div. What was your first impression of Lucas when you first saw him in the cafe?
Handsome. It's like, oh my gosh, he is gorgeous. Charming, right? Like right off the bat, they establish how charming he is. I love his introduction, like the coin falling to the ground and him picking it up and the magic trick. Come on, that is like, so that kind of sets the tone for who Lucas is, right? Charming, fun, magic tricks, which we haven't seen much lately. And I loved how evasive he was. He was like giving it right back to Bill. He wasn't intimidated by, the sheriff in town. So,
yeah.
Loved it.
Blanca, what about you?
I very much agree with Dave because, we see right away that he's a rather interesting and charismatic kind of guy, and I, for one, like that we didn't know his story right away. To me, he was guarded about his past, not because he had any dark secrets. Like, I never thought he was up to no good, like some characters did. But, I felt that the reason was more because of his life experiences. And, but again, I'm glad that we didn't find out in the first episode or the first couple of episodes, because I love it when there is more to a character than meets the eye, when and especially here, because in this town it's like nearly everyone is about an open book, and in that regard I felt that he was a breath of fresh air, if you will.
Yeah, because he was mysterious. He's
but
not a bad guy. Yeah,
exactly.
What about you, Gina?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Blanca and Div were saying. He was definitely, handsome and mysterious, and I definitely found him very interesting. I mean, the fact that he, kind of started communicating with people right away, like he wasn't, shy or anything like that, especially when he was doing that magic trick. And, I knew that they weren't going to make him a bad guy because he was going to be her love interest, but we kind of got a little bit history of him when they were starting to do like articles about the actors and things like that. He was always kind of seen as this like mysterious type of guy, and we didn't know who he was. And he, I figured, he deserves a chance to prove, that he's a nice guy, and for people not to be judging him. And it was kind of funny when Bill was like, who is this guy? Like the facial expressions, and he's like, kind of curious who this guy was. And but I liked that Abigail and Cody kind of, saw past that mystery and were like, oh, this guy's interesting, so yeah, I really love that scene, his introduction.
I just love his confidence. I think it's so attractive. I think a lack of confidence is very unattractive. So I just like you guys said, like he wasn't shy. He's this new guy in town, like he knows zero people, and all these people are talking bad about him, and he's just like, at your service, Lucas Bouchard, at your service. He's just not shy at all. I love it. All right, so then after that, we see Lucas meet Fiona, and she says she's from San Francisco. She asks if he's ever been there before, and he just kind of changes the subject, which just kind of feeds the mysteriousness, where obviously something is going on where he's got some ties with San Francisco. We don't know what they are. We find out later why he's not telling people. Do we say that now? Do we wait? I don't know.
We wait.
Okay. Then it's Elizabeth. Lucas and Elizabeth meet in the street.
We all have something to say about that.
We all
Sorry,
have
go
something
ahead.
to say about this.
Go
No,
ahead.
we do. Let's Blanca. What do you have to say about the meet cute?
So for me, this was a scene when I got on board with Lucas. I didn't need to meet Nathan. I was like, okay, this is my guy for Elizabeth. And yeah, it was, I mean, I didn't need any other scenes, other episodes to know that he was a good guy, because I think in the scene you can really tell that he's an honest man. I don't know. To me, there was nothing shady about him, especially in this scene, because it's the first one, I think, in which we see a little more of him. He's not being guarded with her here, I think. So yeah, and the dynamic between them was very, very powerful right from the start, I think. And I just loved it. I was like, yay, I have a good date.
So cute.
I love, yeah, so cute.
Gina, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Blanca. That was definitely the scene where I'm like, okay, he's the one. And I mean, I kind of was a little bit biased. I mean, like when they were, releasing the articles about the actors and stuff, I already knew that I didn't want her with another Mountie. So I guess you could say I was like a little unfair at first, but I just felt like the description of him, like he was interesting and, all this kind of stuff. And like, when you see him with the suit and all that, he was well dressed. So like he has somewhat of a similar upbringing like her, he was in that wealthy kind of lifestyle. But I mean, everything about like their conversation was just, it flowed. Like there was no awkwardness about it. And he was just so nice and like complimenting her. And it was so sweet. I loved it.
Div, what do you think?
So I had no preconceived opinions of him because I hadn't read like the articles ahead of time. So I didn't really even associate Elizabeth with the Mountie love story. Do you know what I mean? I didn't see it that way because I hadn't watched earlier. So for me, it was just compatibility, chemistry, and just who she clicked with. And I just loved that meet cute. It was perfect. Like there was there was like a little trepidation, but that was between the characters. But as far as like Aaron and Chris, they hit all the beats. And I was just like, oh my gosh, they're going to be good together.
Yeah. Well, and it was a classic Hallmark meet cute.
Right.
Like, I mean, they kind of butt heads a little bit. Not that they butt heads, but it's like the misunderstanding, like, yeah. And then I just think it's cute how, again, his confidence shines through because he gets it wrong that, oh, she's a Mrs., not a Miss, and she has a baby and she's a school teacher. And, but he still is like, well, see, I read you, you're intelligent. You like to read. Like, he just turns around to be like, yeah, I got it right, It's
and that
cute.
last line, when she's like, yeah, I'll try to make it. And he's like, unless you find a good book or something like that. And I love that little comeback because he's already reading her, right? And it's just, it shows his personality and it shows how like well he connects with people.
And he's not desperate.
No.
He's just there. And I think she was attracted to him right away because he's cute, but also like Gina said, the way he's dressed, she kind of connects with that. It's like, oh, this fancy man is in Hope Valley and he's my age and he's freaking adorable.
And interesting.
And mysterious a little bit, which is interesting.
That's not enough.
and I think the fact that he comes in before Nathan just gives him that much more of a I mean,
An edge.
yeah, an edge. A little bit of a step up. Okay. So then Bill is really on a mission to figure out who Lucas is, because Bill is Bill, you know. He's obviously going to protect the town at all costs. He's questioning him again, reaching out to the police to figure out who he is. And Lucas is still just being really vague, and it's driving Bill crazy. And it's so funny. I think it's such a humorous little tidbit into this whole thing.
Oh.
And then Lucas gets on Rosemary's bad side a little bit, because she comes and says, I'm an entertainer, and offers her entertainment services. And he's like, no, that's okay. We're good. We got some entertainment coming on the train. And then, so this is where it feeds into a little bit of the mysteriousness again, because he says the only thing French about him is his name. But then we hear him speaking French later. So it's like, okay, what's that about? When Fiona hears him speaking French on the phone. And then she tells Bill about it because she knows he's investigating. Does anybody have anything to say? I feel like I'm talking a lot, so should I just keep going?
No, I thought Rosemary was a little unfair because it's, you know, it's his business. He gets to hire whoever. And this is his grand opening, right? He wants to do it right. And he doesn't know her. I love Rosie. I really do. Don't get me wrong. And I get why she feels entitled, but I'm like, come on. Come on, Rosie.
She's just being Rosemary.
Yeah.
That's just who she is. And I think it's so funny how she's like she's all just hurt that she doesn't get to play the piano and sing. And when she's like, you know, they actually talked about putting a little stage in this corner. He's like, oh, okay.
Whatever. Yeah, it's true.
So then later in the cafe, Cody sees Lucas and he asks Abigail if Lucas is a scoundrel, because that's what he heard from a bunch of the moms in town, that he's a scoundrel. And Abigail is like, Cody, we have no reason to believe that Mr. Bouchard is anything but an honest businessman. And I was like, there you go. There's no reason for anybody to believe that he's a scoundrel. He has done nothing wrong. Except just say, I'm a tumbleweed. Elizabeth tells Abigail that she doesn't know what to make of Lucas. And she says, and by the looks of it, neither do you. So basically, they don't really know what to think of him yet because they don't know him. Doesn't mean he's a bad guy.
No, I think it's a good thing that we can tell this soon, because, you know, it makes for interesting storytelling. Like, what is this guy up to, and where does he come from, and what's his story? In fact, there are many questions in that regard that we don't know the answer to yet. But that doesn't mean he's a shady guy. So
no,
it's just
right. It's just leading up to this storytelling. It's telling a story. We're not going to be like, boom, we know everything right off the bat, because that would just be really boring.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it gets really kind of Bill tries to intercept a package that Lucas receives, and he demands that he opens it. And Lucas finally is like, okay, he opens it and it's fish. And he's like, what? I love how he holds up that big salmon. And then he just like brushes off his hands when he throws it back in. And Bill's like, his little grumpy face. I think Bill and Fiona are being so over the top in this little investigation. Watching back, I'm like, I'm surprised that I liked Fiona so much right from the start, because like this kind of makes me mad a little bit that she's so like, oh, nosy Nelly. But then we see him pull out his little box of cash, well, his box of a lot of cash, and puts it in his safe. Again, we don't know where the money came from, but is it so bad that he doesn't tell everybody that he has a load of cash? I wouldn't tell everybody.
We don't know the story. I mean, I think who are we to jump to? Well, we're the audience. We can, but like, come on, we don't.
We shouldn't jump into conclusions.
We shouldn't jump to conclusions, you know, and call him shady and blah blah blah. Especially now after 3 seasons. But anyway, but like, we don't know. It's like, just because and Chris does a good job with that scene because he does look like, have you seen his face? Like when he's taking out that money, you can tell that he's on a mission, but we don't know. We just don't.
Yeah. I think we find out later he's just kind of being cautious. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
that's all. I mean, if I literally had that much cash, I would be looking around me too when I put it in my safe.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
Fun
they
fact.
act like he wasn't they act like he was supposed to just wave his money around for the town to see. Like, if
Look at
he had that
me.
much money, I would hide it too. But I was just gonna
Right.
point out, like, I don't know if you guys remember, but in season 1, remember when Elizabeth's father sends her like clothes and things like that because she lost them because the stagecoach. But she had an envelope like in the bottom where she had money in it.
Mhm.
So, I mean, he sent her money and like it was kind of hidden. Like he wasn't going to be like, oh, by the way, here's some money. And then,
Mhm.
have someone hand it to her. Like, no, he hid it. And it was kind of like similar to what Lucas did. Like he hid it,
Mhm.
at the bottom where the fish was. So I thought that was
That's
smart
true.
for them both to do.
Yeah, I didn't ever connect that. That is interesting. And then she hides it, like she finds it and she's like, oh, she puts it back in her
she's like,
journal
"Oh, I
and
need
like
to
looks
check
around.
this out immediately."
Oh, Elizabeth
That's
is
a good
so
point.
shady.
No, that's a
So
good point,
shady.
Gina. I didn't think
no
about
one
that.
said anything. No one said anything about her.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Nope. Oh man, poor Elizabeth, season 1. The stagecoach robbery and then the fire.
Yeah.
Oh, poor thing. Okay, so then we see the grand opening of the saloon, and Lucas meets Lee and meets Rosemary again, and she's all grumpy about their meet their first meeting, and then that's when Lucas finds out that Elizabeth is a widow, and he says, I have precisely what does he say? I have the habit of saying precisely the wrong thing to your lovely school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all coming together, right? That's all like building up to the romance because he's kind of messing up over and he's putting his foot in his mouth, which is all classic Hallmark.
Classic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love story building.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so then we're moving on to season 6, episode 4, where Florence, Molly, and Ned are complaining about Lucas's late hours and loud noise. Lucas agrees to watch his hours, but mentions that he's not breaking any laws. And he's right about that. So Abigail brings it to the town council to possibly write a new law to make every business close by 10 p.m. I just have one thing to say about this scene. I just think it's so funny because Florence is complaining about Lucas's provocative music that he plays. It's literally like piano music. She's like, it's so provocative. Like, how can you have provocative piano music? I just think it's so funny and so on brand for Florence.
And the little jacket tug that she does, like, she's a woman of propriety.
She's so funny. So then Abigail tells Elizabeth that she thought Lucas was a gentleman. She thought more of him. Elizabeth says she has met charmers like him. They have a wonderful presentation, but the flower soon withers on the vine. Div, I know you had something to say about this.
Yeah, I love this quote. This is like my favorite quote. And it's funny because Team Nathan likes to use that quote to tease Lucas. Like if you go on Twitter, they have like 10 GIFs of like this exact same scene with the caption.
He looked me in the eye and said he would cooperate. I took him at his word.
Well, at least now you know the kind of man you're dealing with.
I expected more from Lucas. I thought he was a gentleman.
I've met charmers like him before. They give a wonderful presentation, but the flower soon withers on the vine.
So I love this quote because of how much her opinion changes. Because she has no idea she's going to fall in love with this man. And I actually did a video, it was a few months ago, maybe I'll bring it back, where I took this scene. So her saying this to Abigail, where she's like spouting off. And then I did the library scene where she's telling him she's fallen for him. And I just love that progression. And so I just love this scene because I'm like, Elizabeth, you are going to be a fool for this man. You are going to fall for this Charmer.
Uh-huh.
Look out, girl.
It is fun. Are you the one that said that you like to look back and compare like?
Yeah.
I think so.
I always do that. I always
Yeah.
like to just to see where it started and where it went.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
rewarding.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So good. Okay, so then there's the town council meeting where they're figuring out all this, the hours and whatever. Just for reference as to where we are in the storyline. And Lucas agrees. Well, they make a compromise. He's going to stay open late 2 nights a week, and it's all taken care of. In the saloon, Lucas is doing card tricks, and then there's the punch. Again, this is just a misunderstanding. Jesse sees Lucas doing a card trick with Clara, and he thinks that he's kissing her hand. So he goes and tries to punch him, and he punches Nathan. But it's just a misunderstanding. Again, just like everything else, it's like a picture of like the bigger picture. Everybody sees one thing, but they don't really look further into what's actually going on. So, do we want to say more about the punch?
I think the punch is, in a way, poetic justice anticipated, because Nathan behaves like, choose the adjective, but not like a polite person or a gentleman at all with Lucas after this. So, it was like, we got this. At least for now, we have something to hold on to.
I feel like Nathan, this is where we see Nathan's first impression of Lucas too. It's wordless, but the camera kind of like goes around the room, right? And we see Nathan sitting there, and then we see he's like, leaning back in the chair, and like, he has his beer, and then he's kind of looking around, and then he sees Lucas with Fiona and Faith doing this card trick, and he's just giving him this dirty look, like, oh, like he's sizing him up and like making a judgment on him. And I feel like that sticks from then on. It sticks for quite a while.
Oh yeah,
So
it's true.
Okay, so there's a couple things that happen after that we don't need to discuss, but after the punch thing and Nathan gets his first impression of Lucas offers Nathan a free dinner, and Nathan is all like smug about it. And then Jesse calls Bouchard a jerk to Clara, and she's like, no, actually he's a very nice man once you get to know him. Again, just reiterating. And then Elizabeth meets Nathan. So then we go into episode 6 or episode 5, depending on how you view it with the Christmas episode. Lucas teaches Allie a card trick so she can fit in with the kids at school, which I think is really sweet. Just kind of like he relates to her on a level just to get her to go to school. Elizabeth then catches Allie gambling because she takes it a little step further and gambles. So then she goes to have some words with Lucas.
Okay, so this is another scene that I like to go back and look at because I'm like, look at you. You just come so far. This is a love story, people. This is how it should happen. You have the meet cute, and we didn't have a meet cute in the jail, right? That was not exactly a meet cute or anything. It's also the location of what happened in the finale. Stop being mean. But my point is, like, you just see the storyline progression, and it's beautiful. You see him putting his foot in his mouth twice, and my favorite quote, and then you see her getting mad at him and him loving it, like, and I love that. I love that when you go back, this is the love story we got, and this is the end game we got. Anyway, done gushing for now.
Again, very, very classic. Very classic.
Yep.
They have chemistry. It doesn't matter, if it doesn't have to be a pleasant scene, or it doesn't have to be merely romantic for them to have chemistry. Even if they're fighting, you feel the spark. Just essential for a love story.
So then Elizabeth tells Nathan that while Lucas may have been misguided about the whole teaching Allie the card trick thing, she believes his heart was in the right place. Lucas apologizes to Nathan, and Nathan responds by asking him why he's such an expert at cheating. And Lucas says he has only cheated once in his life. Gina, you wanted to say something about this. What's up?
Yeah, so I love that he just apologizes when he thinks he's wronged someone, even if he wasn't really wrong. I feel like Elizabeth overreacted a little bit. What he taught her was just a card trick. Allie kind of did the whole gambling on her own, in my opinion. It's not like he was like, oh, start gambling and take people's money and all that. Like, she kind of did that herself. She's old enough. She knows better. And his honesty towards Nathan is admirable too, because he told him, I've only cheated once in my life. And, he doesn't judge Nathan for, him being hard on him, because he knows, that's his niece and he's just trying to protect her. So I love that scene.
What about you, Blanca?
Okay, so for me, I consider this the first provocation from Nathan, because, we can see here how he would have loved to get into a fight with Lucas, I think, and probably arrest him if given the chance. I mean, he's very, very hostile here. And there are two things that I'd like to discuss. First, the reason behind Nathan's anger, which I think has little to do with card tricks and a lot to do with the fact that a perfect stranger has proved more effective helping his niece than him. And also the fact that Elizabeth defended Lucas. I think that played a part as well. So, what I see here is a man feeling intimidated by another man who happens to succeed where he fails. That's my take on it. And the other thing I wanted to point out was the reaction from Lucas, because there is such a contrast here. He's not interested in a confrontation with Nathan at all. It's like he simply stands his ground with a, in a cool-headed kind of way, right? Much to Nathan's disappointment, I believe, because the guy was ready to get physical and Lucas won't have it. What do you think? I don't know. That's my impression. I don't know what you guys think.
Am I going?
Go ahead, Div.
It's going me. I have things to say about the scene too, because I did not appreciate Nathan in the scene whatsoever. We don't have a disclaimer today, so I will rein it in as much as possible. Who is he to tell Lucas any of this? I feel like Lucas is more integrated with the town than Nathan is.
Yeah,
because Nathan, right, and Lucas builds relationships with everybody. Right. Nathan doesn't even talk to Rosemary for the first time. We're talking about Elizabeth's best friend till season 7, episode 7. Okay. That is the Union City episode.
You mean season 6?
Dude, no, season 7.
What?
Union City
Really?
Episode. Yep.
Nothing. Yeah.
That is the first time Nathan talks to Rosemary. And it's also it's and it's 2 sentences. It's the scene where they're all like trying to be evasive about Elizabeth going away to Union City with Lucas, and there's like 2 sentences where he runs into Lee and Rosemary, and they're like, "Oh yeah, hi Nathan, bye Nathan."
That's the first time they talk.
Dude, the first time, the first time. And Florence and Molly. That's the first time he talks to Florence and Molly. Like, he's never talked to them before, and it's very like plot oriented. Right? They need like a bunch of people to act all awkward. And that's the only reason he talks to them. At Christmas, I think he talked to like 4 people total. He talked to Elizabeth, Allie, that superintendent guy, and I guess we can count Ned in because he sat next to Ned at the Christmas dinner. Let's be nice and include Ned. But I'm just like, he never, established any kind of relationship. And I had to get into this with a fan from the other side the other day. It was like, Lucas doesn't have any friends. Like, all his friends are business associates. I'm like, what's wrong with being friends with your coworkers? Come on.
Well,
now.
and everybody works with everybody in Hope Valley.
Right.
I mean, everybody has
Bill-
18 jobs.
Heck yeah. And then Bill is like Nathan's friend. Don't they kind of work together? So
Yeah.
I'm ranting as usual. Here's my rant for the day. Hi, don't I have one like every episode? I can't promise there won't be another one. But my point is, like, that is not okay for Nathan to say. It's not his job. It's not his place. He does not get to judge Lucas on this. And then the other thing is, it also sets the tone for these men's their dynamic, because Nathan tries to intimidate Lucas, and he's like, you're not a good fit here. And I think he expects Lucas to like kind of crumple. And Lucas like kind of looks down and has this smirk, and he doesn't let it get to him. And he's like, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm like, go Lucas, do not back down from a bully.
Me too.
That is the tone setter, because Nathan tries so many times to put down Lucas. And I'm not saying Lucas is blameless, and he did apologize, right? When Nathan comes in, the first thing he does is say, I'm sorry.
Right away.
Yeah.
And right after that, Nathan's like, no more card tricks, okay? And Lucas is like, okay, as you wish. And come on, it should end there. And then he starts the whole, why are you a cheater? Like, whatever.
Yeah. Why are you such an expert at cheating?
Right. And I'm like, where do you get that from? Where are you coming up with this? And I think part of it is Archie, his dad. But
yeah, why does he say, why are you such an expert at cheating? Like, what has Lucas done to make him believe that he's a cheater?
Nothing.
Like, if he taught his niece a card trick, that's not cheating. I don't know. But yeah, I think it is admirable that Lucas does say he's only cheated once in his life. Like, I think, Blanca, you said he's just very honest. I mean, he's not saying I've never cheated in my life. He's like, yeah, I cheated once in my life, and then we find out later why. But okay, moving on.
I think we're done here.
Okay. Did everybody say their piece?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then the next episode, they strike oil, and Lucas tells Henry to keep his partnership on the down low. He doesn't want people to know about it. But Clara sees the exchange and seems suspicious of Lucas. And at the beginning of the next episode, Clara sees Henry giving Lucas money for his oil proceeds. He says later that he had his reasons for keeping his partnership with Henry a secret. Again, there's nothing wrong with not telling people, I don't think, personally. But we find out later that he doesn't know who to trust. Then Lucas donates his building to the town for the library and helps build it out. I mean, come on. What kind of a bad guy donates a building that he bought for a library for the town? And Elizabeth is like, you mean to tell me out of the goodness of your own heart, you're donating this building? He's like, yeah. I do have to say, when they're building out the library, one of my favorite lines of like the entire series, I have a few, but this is one of them. When Allie's like, dowels, little wooden things. And Lucas like puts his arms down. He's like, I know what dowels are. I just love it so much. I love the way he says it. So funny. I know what dowels are. Anyway, then Nathan blames Lucas for the trouble that Allie caused when they go on the whole haunted house hunt in the woods. That whole debacle. Yeah, Nathan blames Lucas because she got the idea from a book that she read in the library. And of course, oh, how dare Lucas donate a library, and then my daughter, my niece reads a book in it and gets ideas. And then there's an exchange between Elizabeth and Nathan in the infirmary. Elizabeth defends Lucas and says there's nothing wrong with being a book lover. And he says, he's a lover, all right. I'm just not sure about the book part. And then she says, I'm sorry if your job makes you believe the worst in people. And I know everybody had some words about this. Div,
Shall
you
I
go
start?
first. Oh, Blanca, yeah, you go first.
I actually want to start because I'm going to
Okay.
keep it brief. No, I'm going to keep
Okay.
it brief. And then I want Blanca to elaborate the heck
Yes,
out of
please
this.
go ahead, Steve. I want to hear
No,
what
I'm
you
just
have to say.
because originally I think in my notes I was like Blanca go first, but because then I just want to open it to Gina and Blanca and stay out of
Okay.
it. Okay, so I want to thank Nathan for being so suspicious and jealous and ridiculous because we got dangerous liaisons out of it. Got the dangerous liaison scene, and that is the scene that turned me 100% to Team Lucas, and I never looked back. And when I look back before it, I'm like, why was this even a thing where I thought Nathan could be a good suitor for Elizabeth? But you know what, Nathan?
I just snorted.
Enough with your judgments, but thank you. Okay, now Blanca, Gina, you guys go.
Go ahead, Gina. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, this scene was great. I love that Elizabeth sort of just told him off.
Mhm.
You know, Nathan, he just wants to see the bad in Lucas, and you know, it's because of his jealousy. I mean, as a Mountie, I understand if he's, you know, kind of skeptical of people, but he's full on judging him.
Mhm.
I mean, Allie chose the book herself. Lucas didn't say, "Here you go, here's a book." It was in the library, but she should be smart enough to know if, you know, something's going to be an issue or not. But yeah, I mean, like Div said, this was the scene that gave us dangerous liaison. So I kind of, you know, thank Nathan too in a way.
Yeah, I agree. So, okay, my view on this scene is that we have here Nathan feeling intimidated again by Lucas. Okay. And again, Elizabeth defending Lucas, which is something Nathan has issues with, clearly. But only the difference here is that this time Nathan openly badmouths Lucas in front of Elizabeth. And by doing so, he's basically shooting himself in the foot, which I love because, again, it's like poetic justice for him because, you know, he had been really unfair to Lucas all along. So it's like, by doing this, you're gonna bring them closer and, you know, make this part go, I don't know, a long way with the next scene. So yeah, little did he know that this tantrum of his would you know, give us that lesson to Team Lucas fans. So yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when Nathan talks badly about Lucas to Elizabeth, again, it's just one of those things that's not very attractive. And then on top of it, she defends Lucas. So it's like a double whammy on in a good way for us, I think. So then there's the dangerous liaisons scene when she goes into the library and Lucas is in there putting some books away and he quotes dangerous liaisons and she thinks that he's just talking to her. And she literally has to hold herself up on the table after he leaves. She like isn't breathing. And then he leaves and just like like collapses on the table. Elaborations?
I want to say something, yes, about this, because many people, even among the Team Lucas fan base, have hold this against Lucas. Okay, the fact that he likes this book, which I find ridiculous because you can enjoy a book and appreciate its literary value regardless of the theme, you know, or the morality of the characters. I think, for example, I happen to love Dracula and I'm not bloodthirsty in any way. So, you know, for me, it's like a very silly argument against Lucas. And I've heard it, you know, that's the amazing part to me because I've heard it from Team Lucas fans, and it's like, no, people, please don't go there. I don't think it's fair for Lucas. What do you guys think?
Yeah. You're not a vampire, Blanca?
No. You think I am?
No, I'm just kidding. I had my suspicions though. I've never read Dangerous Liaisons, if I'm being honest. Have you? I don't know.
No,
I don't even.
Me
No,
neither. I watched the film.
I love that Lucas doesn't admit to it, you know, when she's like, I hope I didn't give you the wrong impression. This man is a friggin' genius, okay? Yes, I'm gonna gush because he's not gonna admit it, but he makes her so hot and bothered because he's like, you know, I just feel like Nathan doesn't have this ability to read her. It's like a couple podcast episodes ago, when we talked about Food for the Soul, right?
Right.
How they just connect on that. And Lucas is just not the guy that's like, oh, okay, you're going to take books. Like, he could be. I mean, it's not like a wrong answer. But Lucas takes it to another level. Like, he's this book lover. And he's like, okay, Elizabeth, I'm going to show you. And then he doesn't admit it, but he finds like this creative way to show her that he is a book lover. And I love it.
He's not bragging about himself.
No.
He just shows it because he's just charming. He just knows how to be a charmer.
Yep.
And witty.
And witty.
Yeah.
All right. So then in the next episode, Fiona hears someone on the phone tell Lucas that he's coming after us. Whoever it is, they know Lucas is in Hope Valley. He says he'll figure it out. Fiona tells Elizabeth about the call, and then Elizabeth sees Lucas leaving town with a gun. So she goes and tells Nathan that he looked like a man running to trouble, not from it. I just feel like that scene is kind of showing that she's concerned about Lucas. She goes and tells Nathan because something's going on. And just the fact that she says he looks like a man running to trouble, not from it, kind of just reiterates, I think, the fact that he's confident and brave, and also he's not attracting trouble. He's going to it to help somebody out. Then Nathan finds Lucas in the woods and convinces him to come back home. He tells Nathan at that time about his friend who's in trouble, who he's going to go save. And this is when we find out that Lucas's one time he's ever cheated in his life was to help and save a widow. So boom, there you go. Not a bad guy. All of his secrecy has been because he's protecting this woman who's a widow. It leads into the whole hostage situation in the saloon, where it all kind of comes to a head, and we find out all the secrets about Lucas are for a good reason. You know, he says, I would have done anything to protect you or to keep you safe. And he says without fear and without hesitation, which is kind of, I feel like it's kind of a parallel to Jack's vows to her, because he says without hesitation, like he literally says those words. I don't know if it was meant to be a parallel or not, but it kind of was. And then, so then Nathan and Lucas are talking after the whole hostage situation is taken care of. And Nathan says, is there anything else I need to know about you? Well, first he says, why didn't you tell me about this months ago? And he said, I didn't know who to trust. So that just debunks everything. All the shadiness is gone now. And then he says, is there anything else I need to know about you? And he says, no. And then they shake hands and we're good.
What I got from this part is confirmation that for Lucas to trust people, he needs to know them a bit first, right? Which I think it's understandable. But in fact, we have seen him slowly opening up to the town people as he's gotten to know them over the seasons. But I would like to point out that here we have Nathan questioning Lucas for not confiding in him when he has been wary of Lucas from day one. You know, this is one of my issues with this character. It's like, you're expecting Lucas to do something you're unable to do, okay? So, I don't know, it's like double standard much? Yeah. And I get frustrated with Nathan again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's kind of odd because, you know, people might think that because Nathan is a Mountie and Bill's the town investigator that he should tell them when something's wrong. Like, oh, they're a Mountie, they're men of the law and things like that. But I mean, really, he, like you said, he doesn't know them, and he doesn't have to tell them that something's going on because he has to trust someone first. So, just because they're, lawmen doesn't mean he has to say something to them.
Well, and at the time there wasn't really a risk of danger yet. Like, what is he gonna do? Go tell the Mountie who doesn't like him, like, hey, just so you know, in the future, something might happen where I'm gonna have to go save this woman. You're not just gonna go say that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, then I kind of jumped ahead already, but when Lucas says, I wouldn't have let anything happen to you without fear and without hesitation, I would have done whatever it took to keep you safe. And then they're kind of back on good terms. She smiles at him like, we're fine. We're in the clear. Gina, did you have something to say about that scene in the library?
Yeah. He put his life at the end of the day, he put his life at risk to protect her. And he didn't care if he lost everything he owned, money wise or anything like that. And her safety was at the forefront of his mind the whole time. And, he never talks about his own interests. He's always cares about other people and, their safety and what their concerns are. And he doesn't care about his own. So he's a very selfless man.
I agree. So then we have the grand opening of the library / the Founders Day festival. This whole episode there was a lot going on in this episode. It's kind of a fun one to watch. Lucas picks out a book for Jack in the opening of the library, which is so cute. And they're like reading it together as a little family. And then later he wins him a teddy bear. And then he tries to win Allie a fishing pole. It's just all like, what is bad about this guy? I love that scene too, when he's trying to win Allie a fishing pole. He's being kind of cocky, and then he doesn't get it. And then, did you guys hear Chris say one time that he split his pants during that scene?
Yeah,
I'm glad it was.
I think it's so funny.
Yeah,
I certainly saw the torque. And then there's the dance, and Elizabeth chooses Lucas for the ladies' choice. I mean, someone was like, I said back before I rewatched it, someone was like, well, I mean, she just kind of ran into him and he was the first one that she saw.
No way.
I'm like, no, we watch back. She's like behind him and she taps him on the shoulder and is like, hey, do you want to dance? They're all kind of walking around. It's not like she just bumped into him. Div, what do you have to say about this?
Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead,
bad.
Gina.
No, that was my bad. Go ahead.
No, Gina, you go.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I feel like she was looking for him pretty much immediately. I think she was looking for him specifically. I don't think she was like, oh, there he, that's the first one I see, I'm gonna go for him. No, she was. I think she was looking for him. She was seeking him out for sure.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Good.
So this is where the projection starts for me. I'm getting a little off topic, but this is important. We've been talking about projection, and given how the finale ended, it is something. This is significant for me because of that. I remember initially I was like, the glance. But if you really look at it, the anatomy of it, right before the dance, Elizabeth runs into Henry, and Henry is really down, and they talk about moving on from loss and tragedy. They're talking about the mind collapse, and then Elizabeth is talking about losing Jack. And they're both saying, okay, we've been through this tragedy, and Elizabeth's like, we need to move on from it. And then Henry goes, I don't know how. And Elizabeth says, I know, I understand that, believe me. And she gets reflective. And then after that, Jesse proposes to Clara in this scene, right? And Elizabeth is so excited for her. But then when they start like holding each other and stuff, like you see this faraway look in her eyes where it's like she's going back to Jack, maybe her engagement to Jack or the wedding. We don't know, but
Yeah.
She has that far away, like
Hmm.
nostalgic look in her eyes, and that's when she walks away. And then the next time we see her, she comes over to Lucas and she taps him. So I think the whole point of that scene is for her to move forward. It's that whole thing that she said to Henry about moving on from the tragedy. And then she sees Nathan and the past is staring her in the face again. And so
Mhm.
she kind of goes back.
I also feel like when she's dancing with Lucas and she looks or she sees Nathan, she's not like looking around for him. She just kind of randomly accidentally catches his eye and then she's like, oh. And I feel like from then on she just kind of feels bad for him.
Yeah.
And it's not like an angsty like, oh, I don't know. She does say a couple times that she likes both of them, but I feel like it's more like the reflection, and also she feels bad for him because he obviously likes her.
I mean, it was unfortunate that he, had that look on his face. I mean, I kind of felt a little bit bad for him, but yeah, it's hard, that one, but it's just, I don't know. It was more of like him hurting because he didn't like tell her, like he didn't like really, what's the word? He wasn't very vocal, this guy is not very communicative. He doesn't show that he has some kind of feelings. He's very closed off. And so that kind of was like, oh, he apparently has feelings for me. Like, I didn't know, Whereas Lucas is very communicative. He shows it. He expresses it in all sorts of ways. And yeah.
I agree. I just don't care for Nathan's passive aggressive ways. It's like, if you're interested in that girl, you go talk to her, okay? And do something about it. Not just, I don't know, walk around rooting and making her feel bad over something she hasn't even done yet. So
yeah.
This is me getting frustrated again with me.
I know. It is frustrating. I mean, yeah. But he's economical with his words.
Oh yeah.
Does anybody else have anything else to say? That's the end. So, okay, so we're going to end that episode right there. We went all the way through season 6, proving over and over again that Lucas is not a bad guy. He's not shady. He's not mysterious. We've figured that out. So we can move on from that now, right? So that's our episode for today. Make sure that you are following us on all the social medias. We are at the Luca Beth Lounge on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. And we are at Luca Beth Lounge on Twitter. Like, follow, subscribe, all the things. Thanks for joining us today. See you next time.
See you.
Bye everyone.
Thank you, everyone.